Good evening, everybody. Again, such a great honor being here with Chaim and hosting Al Nicoletti, aka the King of Probates. This is the nickname which he built with hard work, right, Al?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
100%. So today, what we're going to be talking about is a fascinating subject, which is called probate, right? And we're going to talk about a lot about what is probate, how to run a successful probate transaction in a fairly short amount of time, right? Between 1 to 3 weeks. We're going to talking about ways of finding leads of probates, and we're going to talk about also when is it necessary actually to run and when it's necessary, when it's not necessary, running a probate transaction, right? So we're going to be touching all of those points, and I think giving enough of information for people to be able to get a better understanding of what is it, what is probate. So before we're going to be diving in, Al, first of all, again, thank you so much. Being here, it's a huge honor. Al, can you tell us, Al is a probate attorney, and I will allow you, I'll let you have the stage for a couple of minutes. Tell us, who you are and what you do, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Haim, thank you for having me, for being here and doing this whole thing. I mean, Yav, I love talking about the whole probate niche, and it's fascinating. I thought of something. I'm the only attorney that can liven up death. I'm the only attorney that can talk about probate to death, and I'm the only attorney that can bring probate to life. I thought about the third one the other day, right? So I love talking about it because it's really interesting, right? So many investors come across things all the time in property, and I'll be on a Clubhouse room, the new app that's just going crazy worldwide, and I'll be in a land group or a real estate group, and they'll say, "Oh, I came across one, mom died, dad died," and I do all this stuff. So again, let me properly introduce myself because we could talk about probate forever. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. I go anywhere from Pensacola to the Key West. I can do probate in any county in Florida. I'm licensed in Florida. So anything really we discuss today, it's only for educational, informational purposes only. I'm not here to give legal advice, to talk about stuff other than Florida, but not here for legal advice. I'm just here to really provide the best information I can give this group. And we'll make sure we have a whole bunch of stuff. You can find me on my YouTube channel under Al Nicoletti. You can find me on my Instagram at Attorney Nicoletti. You can find my show, The Al Nicoletti Show. We need to get
an amazing show. Amazing show, guys. If you haven't seen it yet, you should be, definitely tune in. 100%.
Yeah,
check it out.
We need to make sure everybody has the link for that. But it's the Al Nicoletti Show. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on iTunes. So go to Spotify, open up the app, and type in the Al Nicoletti Show, and you'll hear I'm bringing on big time super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and people in the community that are big time, that educate you. It's not me getting up there and being the lawyer yapping away. It's really interviewing these people that are big time people. So check that out. And yeah, let's when you're ready, let's dive in.
Let's go. So Al, first of all, I think for people who, I think, a lot of us heard the term probate like in the past. What is probate, Al? What is actually probate? What is the meaning of probate? What is it?
The real meaning is somebody owned an asset and they owned it in their individual name. And in order for the children, the spouse, whoever the true heirs are, to get it, we need this process. So probate is the process of being able to get the asset. And so you get the asset into your name or all their names to then go get it. So real estate, somebody owned property in their name and they died, and there's one kid, no spouse, one child. Well, if Yav ever goes to them and says, "Hey, you want to sell this thing?" They're going to go, "Yeah, let's do it." But what they're going to miss is that they have to do probate, transferring the title over to them so they have authority to sell it. Super simple. And it's a title insurance requirement.
Gotcha. So actually probate is a process. It's a process itself, right? It's not an inheritance or whatever. It's a process that needs to happen, changing a process that needs to happen for changing of ownership.
Right. That's it. It's the process. That's it.
Gotcha. And Al, when is a probate needed? I mean, in what cases when we meet? And again, this is what we do, right? We're working on generating leads. We meet a lot of stories out there, right? A lot of people who are motivated. And in what cases, in what type of leads will a probate process needs to happen?
So what you're looking out for in terms of real estate, right? So we could talk about brokerage accounts and IRA accounts and forget all of that, cars. Focus on the real estate. So the first thing that is important in real estate is who is on the deed. So when is probate needed? Well, you'd be surprised to know. So you have husband, the only one on the deed, and he's married and the wife is still alive. Husband dies and she's thinking, I don't have to do probate. I've been married to him for 30 years. All we need to do is that paper thing at the title company. It's not so easy because she was never on the deed. So you start there. When is probate needed? If the person's name is on the deed. No magic language either. So you may have a situation where it says husband and wife, and husband dies, and on the deed it says her too. Well, now all you record is a death certificate and it's 100% to her. So that's when you don't need it in that case, right? But you really need it when you have, if it was Yav, Haim, and Al, all on title, right? All on title. And let's say I pass and Yav pass, right? And then Haim, you wanna sell the property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't sell it until a probate for me and Yav.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had equal ownership interest, no magic language. So what happens though if the deed was titled with magic language called joint tenants with the rights of survivorship? That means that we don't have to do a probate. I die, Yav dies, and then it goes to you. So there are unique ways with magic language that prevent situations where a probate is needed, but you're looking for their individual name.
Got it. So probate is only between family members or not, or it's only first degree of relationship?
So you mean on a deed situation?
Yes. If let's say there are no heirs, and
okay, so we're diving deeper. So in terms of when probate is needed and not needed, you look at the deeds. Now, inheritance, who's in line for the inheritance? Okay. Always. So, this kind of goes to how to run a successful probate, because these are great questions you have to know when you come across these things. We've been through that before, Yav. Is there a will, right?
Yeah.
You want to know, is there an original will? Because if there's an original will, it's presumed there was a will. And who does it say on the will? Who does it say, right? And then you know who gets it. But what happens when you have no will? And when you have no will, what you have is a situation where you look, is there a spouse, right? In Florida, spouses have rights. You can't just exclude a spouse in Florida. So spouses have rights. So you're asking, oh, who's next? Okay, spouse, no spouse. Kids, you go down. Kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. Well, it's kids, and if one of them is dead, grandkids. If one of them is dead, great-grandkids. You go down. And if none of them, no spouse, no kids, you go up. And so I tell this to people not to look impressive like an airplane. I feel like the guy on the 10th tarmac, I'm not trying to look like that guy. What I'm trying to show you is these are the people that you're looking for. When you're asking the hard questions, you're asking tough questions, you want to know basics. Who are we looking for? What's happening? And if you know those things, you can get to the next level. So it'll go parents, it'll go brothers and sisters, it can go nieces and nephews, then it can go aunts and uncles, and then eventually it keeps going down. And if the spouse predeceased the person, You even have to go down their line. I talked to a group the other day about this. I was like,
Wow.
don't even go there, because now we're talking about the genealogists I have in Central Florida who will write an affidavit about the whole story. We don't want to go there.
I heard about it. Yeah.
So that's yeah.
So Al, I mean, I think, you know, we run across a lot of leads and a lot of stories, right? And we hear inheritance, right? I think this is the first stuff. Like, you know, we meet somebody, you know, we talk to somebody, said, yeah, my mother passed away, or you know, I'm going to, you know, my mother passed away, right? We need those type of leads, right? This is the time when we need to start thinking about probate. What questions we should ask a seller, and getting a better understanding. What should I do? Should I immediately call Al, an attorney, and say, okay, I got this guy, or I should qualify him first? What type of questions somebody needs to ask? Basic questions to understand what he's dealing with, right?
So I think one of the first things that can help you is what's on the deed, just to get an idea. Is it so when the beneficiary is saying, oh, it was mom, is mom the last one on the deed? Okay, so mom may be the last one on the deed. And before you even get to my level, ask very simple questions. Is this the only property? Do you know if there's a mortgage? What's that look like? Have you been getting any payoff letters, right? Because you don't want a situation where mortgage is $100,000, but you're willing to offer 60. I'm like, you know, do you want to be in that? You do your short sale thing? I'm not a part of that. But you want to ask the mortgage. What's the mortgage? What are the taxes? You know, if they don't know, that's fine. They don't know. You're going to find that out at the closing, at the title company, right? So next thing, is there a will? Big question.
Is there a will? That's a huge one, right? That's a big one.
Huge. Because the will say who gets what or what gets what. It may not be going to people. It may be going to a trust.
And we're going to talk about that in a second, right? Yeah. Because that's another great issue. But let's continue.
So you're looking at, is there a will? It's got to be an original ink will. No copies, right? So we had a thing recently. I didn't take the case on, but long story short, lady dies. She has a copy of a will, and nobody knew where the original one was. And so the lady had no spouse, no kids, and so it went down to nieces and nephews. And so the lady that was in the will copy, her kids wanted to get the property. So they were battling with the nieces of the lady with no will, and they were battling with the person that was going to inherit the property with a will, but it was only a copy. So I was ready to take the case on, and things came up, but the bottom line was, I said, where's the original? Where is the original will? Oh, I don't know. What's that, Yao?
Nobody knows.
I don't know what really was the story, but somebody found out at the end, I don't know what was going on, right? Somebody knew. Why after this whole time did you find it? Well, anyway, we were like, where is it? So finally, somebody found it. Somebody found the original, and they brought it. I looked at it. It was an original will, and I was like, wow, they actually have it. And it could be legitimate. Now there's questions about the staples and how restapled 3 times and it was taken out. So but the point is, where's the original? You got a copy, it's presumed revoked and destroyed. And unless everybody is on board, you're not getting it back in. It's hard. Very, very difficult. You can, but it's very expensive.
So number one question is there a will? And if there is a will, do you have the original, right? Not a copy. Do you have the original?
The original.
Okay.
Yeah. Second question. Who is next in line? Well, actually, the first question was, is this the only property? Was this the primary residence? What's the story there? Number 2 is the will. Number 3 is, what's the inheritance story? Is there a spouse? you have to always ask, did they have a spouse? And if they don't, who are the kids? You look really smart, and confident when you're just kind of like, well, wait a second, let's sit down and figure it out. Because it even helps people like me, right? It helps, whoa, this is the story? Okay, guess what? If you tell me and we have a basic idea, I could be like, it's not happening, it's happening. We have a story to deal with. Because here's the thing, probate real estate is just another real estate transaction with a puzzle. So this part 3 is the puzzle. Who's next? Kids, parents, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, and keeps going up. So that is a huge question to ask. Obviously, the mortgage and everything. But if we get past that, you don't have to get too deep, right? You don't want to get too deep because some families get really protective and personal, right? And that's where I come in, right? Because we really dive deep. Like, I take the sub and, we go really deep and find out the death certificates, the date of death, where are they? But finding out where they resided is actually really important, because I'm picking up right now a lot of ancillary probates. So that means they resided in New York, they resided in Ohio, they resided in California, but they owned property in Florida. It's interesting.
So out of state. So it's out of state, you're dealing with a lot of out of state.
Right, a lot of out of state, a lot.
Gotcha.
So, quick question. So the will always exceed the next in line?
Does the will do what?
Supersede the next in line. So
it can. So yeah, well, it really can. So in Florida, you have to be careful that the will does not exclude a spouse or a minor child.
Okay.
So let's just say there's no spouse, no minor children, but you have, let's say you have 3 kids, and it names all 3. Well, even if there was no will, it's going to all 3, right?
Okay.
But let's say you have a situation where of the kids, it's not naming one of the kids, it's going to their grandkids. It can happen. It can happen.
Got it.
Gotcha. There is a question, Al, about a scenario that in the case that, there is 2 kids, one of them is dead. So it will split between the kid and the grandkids of the dead, the one who died between the 2. This is how it works?
Yes and no. Yes and no. So let's say you have the 3 kids, right? I can't even tell.
2 kids. You have 2 kids.
Okay, let's make it 2. Right? 2
one
kids.
died and one stayed alive, but the one who died had kids, right?
Okay. One passed, right? So when did they pass before the main person? So let's say dad. They passed before dad. So then you're looking at their kids. And let's say they have 2 kids. So those are the grandchildren. You only need 1 probate, but of the one that died, yes, those two split the share equally. Yes.
Gotcha.
I know we're using our middle finger for that one, but
yeah. Sorry, I mean, you got a story, right?
I get it. So that makes sense. You're splitting the shares, right? What you're doing is you're building a map. And so if that brother dies after dad, you need another probate for that brother. And then you're asking spouse, kids, because in the scenario where the one predeceases, they died before, you immediately bypass the spouse of that person that passed.
And this is where we actually need an attorney, right? I mean, obviously, we're not going to become now an expert in, trying to understand the tree, who died when, and it was before or after. But I think, before I give you a call, right? Said, listen, I got this lead. I need your feedback on it. You need some basics, right? You need, this is what we do, right? You always ask me, is there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And if I don't have it, I go back and I get it for you. right? So will, we spoke about, is there, is this the homestead? If this is the only property, is there a will in place? And if there is a will, is that the original, right? If there is any kids, that was the next question, like the basics of the basics.
Yeah,
right?
Are there kids? Who is next in line? Who are the inheritance? That's very important. Because as long as we find out the basics, like somebody called me yesterday. They found me on my business page, find me on my Facebook business page, find me everywhere. They asked me a question. They said, mom dies and there's 5 kids. All 5 are deceased. And then they said there's 5 grandchildren. Well, it's like, whoa. We can't even get the grandchildren before we figure out the 5 that, died. When? Did they die before mom or did they die after mom? Because if they died after mom, we need 5 probates.
Oh my God.
If they died before mom, it can drop straight down to their shares and we're only dealing with 1 probate.
Wow.
Al,
Crazy,
tell us what is what is a trust? What is an estate? What's the difference between the two? What is it?
So after Yav's thing, make sure you check out the YouTube channel and the Facebook page because I did a webinar on Tricks Are for Kids, but trust or not, I dove deep on this and this will be a crash course for everybody, right? So trusts avoid probate. So property titled in a trust. So on the property appraiser says trust or the deed says, so property titled in a trust avoids probate. Oh, great. We finally avoided it. Poorly drafted trusts and incorrect provisions on the trust don't avoid a trust administration. I call it trust thing because everybody seems to remember when I say trust thing. Everyone's like, what's the trust thing? Trust thing. Trust thing, because we have to appoint somebody to have authority. Just like in the probate, nobody really has authority for the title insurance until we do the probate and move it over. Now the kids can sign, they can sign all the documents. Same thing with the trust. You have to have a trustee, somebody with authority to sign the documents. And if you have somebody of authority to sign the documents, it can be possible. So that's where we come in and do this court thing where we appoint somebody.
Understood. Estate, what is an estate?
So in terms of, I guess, the property records, an estate, it depends on the terminology, right? So an estate means somebody died, maybe the death certificate's recorded, and that means it's just sitting there in limbo, or maybe there's a probate already going on, but the title and the records haven't changed yet to reflect the heirs. So it's still reflecting as an estate because probate is either not done, it's done, and the county hasn't changed the records. Is that what you're talking about with the states? Because I'm sure
because we spoke like 2 days ago you remember we spoke 2 days ago about the lead. I told you I have this lead with an estate and we're trying to move the title and it's not. So yeah, just that in that relations, I was asking about, the estate.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, it's the record. The records may show that it's still titled in the deceased name. And you have no idea. Like if you saw full-blown PowerPoint, right? This kind of goes to the probate market is a gold mine. It's why Yav has me on here because he knows this is the future. This is totally 2020, 2030, 2040. The amount of probates or properties that are still titled and all the titles messed up is gold. This is why it's so important to talk about this because there's people still paying the property tax after 30 years and the title is still an estate. Still.
Wow.
Al, let's talk about leads. You mentioned like probate is the future, and it's a very interesting niche. I think it's a very solid niche because at the end of the day, we know that those type of leads, most probably whoever inherited the property, most chances he wants to sell the property, right? This is a fact, right? There's no real sentimental issues. There is no, they inherited the property, they want to cash out in most of the times. So those type of leads, where can we, where should we look for those leads? How can we find them?
Tax delinquents, tax deed sales, right? Because and pre-foreclosures, right? Let's group those together. Tax delinquents, tax deed sales, and pre-foreclosures. Why? Well, there's only 3 reasons why that's happening. They can't pay, they forgot to pay, they're dead.
Or they're dead.
So it's a great lead. So maybe the family doesn't even know about it. Family has no idea what's happening, right?
They don't even know that they need to pay, or they don't know that they need to pay.
Right. They don't have a clue. They moved on in their life. They went to Ohio. They got a job, doing something. They moved to New York. They got a job. They forgot all about mom owned this property over here. So they don't pay the taxes. Somebody yowls like, that's a great deal. He picks it up at the tax certificate sale. He's like, nobody's going to know about this. And then he pushes it to a public auction. And that's a great lead source, because he could go track down those heirs and say, look, call to action. This is a call to action. If you don't do this, you're going to lose your property to a tax deed sale. And there's no canceling the tax deed without the taxes being paid off. So those are great lead sources. Also, yeah.
I guess my question is, we usually, again, most people buy these properties from list providers. So the question, how we can catch this?
Oh, kind of.
Yeah, Chaim is a bit
as early as possible.
You're cutting
Can
off.
you hear me now?
Chaim. Can you repeat, please?
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yeah.
So most wholesalers or investors buy these leads, probate leads, from list providers, and obviously getting first to those leads can get us the edge. So how can we get to these leads as early as possible in the process to be the first to the punch?
A couple things. Great question, because how do you get there sooner? Number one, there's something called pre-probate. So these leads are pre-probate, meaning they're not in probate yet, meaning less competition, right? But now that everybody knows, it's gonna be more competition, right? So less competition for now.
Yes.
Meaning there hasn't been a probate yet, and that's these leads is like a company called foreclosuresdaily.com, right? They're a lead company that they provide leads. And if you ever need a contact for them, I can absolutely give it on the show, who to go to. Angela, she's great over there. But they do these leads and they take the work out for you. They're the ones cross-referencing everything. Death certificate, did they own property? And they're lining the stars, right? They're lining, this is it. Guy owned individual name, owns real estate, probate, right? Those are great leads. Also, if you have time, I know so many people are going to be watching right now. I'm sure so many have VAs, right? Virtual assistants that are kind of doing all the work. Do you really want to delegate to them the task of, here's a death certificate that just got filed, here's the name, here's the property, and kind of cross-reference? It's tough. You could. But the tax delinquents, the pre-probates, the pre-probates are the best. But they're soon after the death, which is hard because you have to time it right. If 2 weeks, it's too soon. 2 to 3 months, maybe a little bit better,
So this is recorded in public records, the pre-probate?
Not the pre-probates, but maybe a death certificate's filed and you can cross-reference the name and the person's address, or however you can figure out how to cross-reference. It's an avenue, but it's not everything, right? Obituaries. Many people look at the obituaries and
I used to do that.
but it's a lot of work.
Yes.
And
but I put a VA who go to the obituaries ads, and they're like searching to see if they own a property, and then skip trace them, because that's how you get before even the probate is recorded.
Yeah, I mean, there's many ways to do it. So many people have different strategies.
As long as somebody is dead. As long as somebody is dead.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 2, 3, 1, somebody, right?
Someone needs to die.
So that's basically it, right? But once that happens, it's a matter of when do you hit it, right? So I don't know how many we have watching right now. I can't see the eyeball.
For now, it's running between 13 to 16 so far. So if you're gonna get more interesting, I'm sure we're gonna get a higher number.
well, one thing I want to say, well, we have the 13 to 16 is these probates, they can be done. I can do these in a matter of weeks, a couple of months. You know,
we're gonna talk about it we're gonna talk about it in a couple of minutes. Actually, what are the costs and how much time it takes, right?
Yeah. 100%. My fastest probate being 2 hours, but that not all results are the same, right?
Yeah.
Don't let people
disclaimer.
We're now jumping to 15 now, so it's good. So now question. What benefits, let's say, a lot of people talk about, probate attorneys, right? Probate attorneys and trying to somehow connect or getting relationship and stuff. What are the benefits? I mean, is there any benefits trying to connect? I'm talking about leads-wise, business-wise, with attorneys such as yourself. And if the answer is yes, how do we do that? How do we approach probate attorneys?
You know, it's so funny. I've gotten this question a few times on Clubhouse. You know, when I'm in the groups and I'm talking to Carrie, I'm talking to some other big names that do probate all the time. She's a big name that does probate like after the list in Orlando. It's really hard because for me, I'm very different, right? Anything I'm usually working on, there's already probably a buyer. There's already somebody there. So I'm out, right? Like I said.
Yeah, but in general, we're talking in general.
Yeah, in general. Like in my thing, I stay in the left lane. You're all in the middle lane, the right, and we just go. In general, I lean a little bit more to the you can if you want. If you think it's going to be worth doing, you can. Many attorneys are just not responsive and don't want to do anything. So you have to also look at it as time valuation, whether you want to do that and go down that road. Some may be good. You never know, right? You never know. It may be an avenue. But the thing is that the lawyer in Florida is not making the decisions on behalf of the heirs. So if you're thinking, oh, wait a second, if I go to that lawyer, he can help, decide everything. It doesn't work that way because the decision makers are the heirs. That's who you really, if you want to get down to it instead of all the, if I had a meter, Gal, if I had a meter, my meter is probably like at 30%. No, like I think it's just you have more time on your hands when you're able to do the stuff to get the lead, get the marketing, get the person that on title, we have to do a probate and that's it. That's my thing, right? Like I'm barely ever approached. It's because probably everybody knows now, but I'm barely ever approached by investors about, hey, I'd love to connect and,
really
send me anything. Because it's actually the other way. It's like, you all know, I do these timely. I can wait until the closing. I'm giving them all the good tidbits for the eyeballs go up to 20. I wait until the closing. I can do these in weeks, but that's the difference. So it's so hard for me to answer on that question.
So quick question, just a follow-up question on that. So who is most of your clients? Is the actual heirs or it's actually investors that kind of hire you to, or title companies to do that service?
It's the heirs. The heirs at the end of the day are the client. They're the ones that are saying, hey, we need to retain you. We need to do this thing. How do we do it?
So if somehow I'm in good relations, again, with an attorney, perhaps I can gain access to provide them with offers. Is that a crazy thought? Is that even a feasible thing? Or
Or there's a conflict of interest?
It's not the conflict part. It's that the lawyer's not the one making those decisions to make it to that level, right? Like,
gotcha.
It's at the end of the day, it's the heirs, it's the beneficiaries, it's the personal representative, if there is one, that makes the decision. And so, yes, could you look at it as an opportunity to make the relationship? Well, sure. But at the end of the day, you're going to go back to your board meeting in 4 months and say, hey, what is this getting us right now? If it's not getting us anything, then okay, you need to get the leads and grind and figure it out.
Understood. Let's talk about, a bit about the cost of doing those probate procedures and then in general, how much time a normal procedure like that takes and how much time can take going with you. And this is why actually you're so successful in what you do, right? Because you're somehow managing doing it in crazy periods of times, right? Very short. And tell us a bit more about that.
So in the world of probate, what a lot of people don't know is there's attorney's fees and there's costs. So costs are expenses: FedEx, UPS, opening the court file, certified mail, things that we have to pay people, right? You don't just walk into Publix and it's free, right? Those are expenses. You pay for this. So there's costs, and it depends on the value of the estate. So if it's just a primary residence, you're looking at about $250, maybe $275, right? But if you're looking at it's land and it's $100,000, now we're in a different game about, okay, it's $100,000. When was date of death? Do we have to do that newspaper thing? So costs, expenses can range from $250 to $800. Okay, generally though, anywhere between $250 to $400, because we rarely have to have the full-blown administration, right? So you're looking at $250 to $400. Now, in terms of timing, and fees, attorney's fees.
Yeah.
Can't forget that. So attorney's fees, those are the services that I do, right? Or the attorney does. We get paid for them. What's unique is I can wait until the closing to get paid. So
which is awesome.
It's huge. I've told 3 people today, they were like, that's magic. I'm like, it's what I do. I can wait. If you can be patient, good things come, right? So I can wait until the closing to get paid. And so that helps because the heirs, they can pay the costs and the fees at the end, or the buyers, the investors, can pay the fees and the costs if the client consents. Or you can work it out for me, it doesn't matter. Just let me know and I'll get the consent, right? But it doesn't matter because you can pay the fees, they can pay the cost. You can pay the cost, they can pay the fees.
Because we meet a lot of stories, with sellers that, at the end of the day, they need to go through probate, but they say, listen, I don't have the money, right? I don't have the money to pay. I want to sell, but I don't have the money to an attorney. And this is where we can actually come in and we do this. We say, you know what? That's not a problem. I'll pay for it, right? When actually I know I'm working with Al and I'm not paying for it because I'm only going to be paying for it when we know from my proceeds at the end, right? So I'm not going out of pocket at the beginning, right? I work with Al, and when the transaction is done, we go to closing. This, Al gets paid. So that's awesome. That's a great service I'll provide, right?
Or Al can get paid from the proceeds, which is even better for you as an investor, right? So you don't need to pay for it.
In the case that the seller agree, but sometimes you say, I'll pay. I'll cover it. That's fine. Don't
worry about it. You don't need to worry about it now.
That's the beauty of it, that you can be in a position from the beginning to say, don't worry. We know an attorney, we know an attorney that can wait until the end to get paid.
That's beautiful.
I always want cost up front, but as long as we wait for the fees at the end.
Yeah, sure. As long as I get paid, I don't care who pays and when. Yeah, got it. Got it.
Al, time frame.
So this is what's so unique, right? The time frame. So everybody keeps hearing that, oh, it's 6 months, it's 9 months, it's 2 years. Like, what is this? Like, I don't want to do probate if it's going to be 2 years. And that's where I figured out, I was like, whoa. I want to make it as simple as possible. I want to make these probates super stupid simple. So when we're doing them, the time frame, as long as everybody's on board, you got 2 kids, they're ready to do this, no will, no spouse, homestead property, and you're like, the closing's next week and we're in 2 weeks. It's like, look, we can get these things done in a matter of weeks. It could be days. I mean, I just had one, it was so crazy, where the tax deed was yesterday, and we knew the tax deed was yesterday for about 2.5 weeks, but we're like, what do we do? What do we do? How do we do this? And we came up with a strategy, and we had everything by Monday morning. And
That's
we
crazy.
filed the probate. It was a formal too, so we had to have the PR, affidavit, everything. And so we filed the probate on Monday, got a case number, got a hearing because it was complicated the next day. And we went before the judge and got an order authorizing sale and saved the tax deed. So you're talking about days, you're talking about weeks, you're talking about maybe a month to 2 months when, it's the county that doesn't respond to anybody for about a week and a half, right? We see those, right?
Yeah.
So, those are times. I've done that. I did one, my fastest one I ever did. But of course, disclaimer, not all results are the same because everything's different.
Yeah.
Every situation is different.
Right.
It was 2 hours. We filed the probate at 2 p.m. because I have everything, right?
But that's your record, right? That's like crazy stuff, right? I mean, that's not, nobody should expect.
That's not the typical, right? Yeah. That's not the typical results. Disclaimer. Yeah.
Yeah, total disclaimer. It's crazy because yes, that's folklore. That's that's legend stuff, right? 2 hours. I'll never forget, when I say timings, it's like you got to get everything first. Then when I file it, that's when I'm saying 2 hours. So I filed the probate and got the orders in 2 hours. I couldn't believe it. The investor, crazy story about that is I connected with the investor maybe 8-9 months ago, or I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. And we sat down with Zoom, hey, and so all of a sudden he calls me and he's like, hey, there's this one that's been sitting in this lawyer's office for 6 months. And I said, what do you mean 6 months? He's like, they're not doing anything. I'm like, let me see it. So I looked at it and I analyzed everything. And I'm like, there's 2 heirs. And I said, are they both alive? They're like, yeah, they're both alive. I said, where are they? They said, they're over here. And we got their names, their mailing address, their email. I sent everything over to everybody. They sent it back. Done. I mean, we got it. And the investor said, look, if you were trying to make an impression, you did. And I did. And that's called hustling, being on the game, doing it, and getting it done.
100%. And I can, I'm the one who from experience, I can tell it and assure it. This is how you actually build your name, right? But by getting shit done. Al, question. We got someone asking about what is your opinion if you know all the leads? You know all the leads providers, the leads providers?
Heard about them. I've never connected with them.
Gotcha.
Foreclosuresdaily.com is the one that I know about.
Understood.
Which one?
Foreclosuresdaily.com.
Got it.
If you have any, like you mentioned, you have a connection. Her name is Angela. If you have any, I don't know, special rates that you can provide us or hook us up with the group, that would be awesome.
I'll do this. So if you ever go to their website and you type in, you know how you fill in the info stuff, make sure you type Angela Hernandez, right? But make sure you have her phone number. which is here. If you ever need to get a hold of her.
Yeah, send it. You can send it over to me later. I'll make sure putting in the comments so people can have the contact, and if it will give them some extra benefits, that's always awesome. For the group, that would be beautiful.
Yeah, great. She's great.
Any tips again? Any tips that you can give to wholesalers or investors on how, like, best practices on how to work with attorneys, or things that makes you crazy when people doing the wrong way or go about things the wrong way or unethical? What kind of tips you can give to others that would love to work with attorneys like you?
Two things. Contract and follow-up. So what do I mean by that? So contract and follow-up. So the thing is that if we have a situation where we have to get a contract approved, we don't always have to have the contract approved, but if we ever do, you got to make sure that number's fair, right? So because we're presenting that to the court, and they got to look at it. Is the estate being benefited? Get a CMA. Basically, the tip is you got to help with the groundwork, right? Like, you really got to help get, we don't always have to have those situations. But when we do, just make sure it's not, a $10 contract. Seen that before. $10. It's like, come on, man. We're not doing a $10 contract.
So what, the court is actually, somebody is looking on those things?
Sometimes. It depends. If it's homestead, no. Homestead, primary, note, we get the order done, order done, order done. Land, 75,000 or under, order done, order done, order. But then when you start getting to ones that are like less than 2 years, date of death, over 75,000, we have to get a personal representative. Sometimes that contract has to get approved. And if the ARV is 200 and you're coming in going 30,000, you got to be really careful with doing that, because it may not get approved. So you have to really do your due diligence and get things. The other thing is follow-up. So it's funny. I don't run into many like this because I'm like, go, 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 go. So like, you don't have to always follow up with me because I'm always following up with you. I'm always like, hey, this is what happened. This is what happened. But I had one recently that I declined, not because of anything but the story and everybody was just not telling the truth. But I remember the investor was following up with me probably every day. And I was like, if you have to follow up with me every day, can you imagine what their follow-up was with the dinosaur that's got the office on the corner, that's got nothing going on? Can you imagine and it's like, there's got to be, not everything is a follow-up every single day, right? So that's a tip out there. It's like, look, we got a process, we got to do this. For someone like me that could do weeks, that's nothing. That's like, that's like, hey, go ahead, have fun. 2 weeks. But when you have ones that are just constantly like, I rarely have it though, right? Like for me, I rarely have it because I'm like this, next. But for lawyers that probably aren't on my speed, they're getting followed, and it's crazy sometimes.
Got it.
We have a question here. I'm not sure I got it, but if somebody buys a house before probate is over, when there is already a trustee, so I'm not sure I got it, but is this possible even?
So there's a couple concepts going on. Probate and trustee don't go hand in hand. So let's separate the two. So the investor finds the beneficiaries, properties titled in a trust, right? And they find the trustee. Great. Mm-hmm. Trustee can sign. Go ahead, bring it to the title company. Go from there. You don't need probate. Maybe you don't need something. But the probate side is, the probate doesn't have to be fully done for the properties to sell. And that's probably the question that they're looking for, right? Or the answer. The probate doesn't have to be done in order for the property to be sold. So for example, the one that I was just talking about, salvaging the tax deed, the one that I just did in 2 days, it was like, super formal administration. The probate's not closed. We just opened it. But you know what got done? The property's going to sale. So in very short, yes, there is a way that the property could be sold and the probate's just still open.
Gotcha.
Got it.
Al, if there's any more question, guys, this is the time. I don't want to be taking too much of Al's time. Al,
I'm here.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, obviously you mentioned, the post, the whole podcast and YouTube channel 100%, but what is the best way if somebody, first of all, where do you operate? I mean, I understand from you, this only Florida outside, and when can somebody reach out to you? What is the best way reaching out to you?
So one of the best ways, you can find me on Facebook, Al Nicoletti. You could shoot me a message. You could always email me, but then I'm going to have to go through the A is for Apple, N is for night. So you can find me on Facebook. You can go to my YouTube channel. You can always, Yalv can always give you the info for me also later. Find me everywhere. I got the Al Nicoletti show. You can always find my content that's out there. So anybody that wants to reach out to me, please reach out. Yalv, I'll make sure you get that info as well.
100%. And again, I know for a fact, and this is what also so beautiful with you. I mean, people can reach out to you. And again, maybe I'm saying something in your behalf, but I know for a fact that, if somebody has a question about something, it's not, you're not those type of guys that listen, make an appointment with me and whatever. Somebody calls you and asks you a question, obviously you're not going to sit half an hour with them, but you get it. Like in 2 minutes, you'll ask him what's going on. You maybe send him for a couple more questions, but this is, I think, what's amazing about you and with you as well. It's not, you get also very helpful for people who have questions. And obviously at the end of the day, if they will need probate, this is where, they're going to hop on and walk with you, right?
Yeah, and I love what you said before. What I like doing is getting straight down to business and getting things done, right? Like I'm not here to be like, all right, here we go. This is what we got. I'm like, okay, what's next? Who do we get? How do we get it? Where's the property? Go get the title commitment. Let's get the title commitment. Do we have everybody's info? Boom, send out, done, file. Like I'm here to make things happen. I'm not here to be a sloth. I'm here to.
Yeah, this is why we like you.
Yeah.
Money attracted to speed. Somebody told me one time.
Exactly. So, yeah. Exactly. And this is what, this is why we as wholesalers, this is why we know if we go to our shit gets done and it gets done quick. Right. So this is what it's all about. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Al, Chaim, any last questions for Al?
No, I think again it was a great session. Obviously, probate is usually there is a problem with a probate. We are problem solver, and we have an attorney that gets shit done, which is not typical. Most of the attorneys, based on my experience, are slower, old school. They are not investor friendly, and it's great to see that there's different type of attorneys out there. So it was great to speak with you today, and thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Chaim, thank you so much. You're right. Everything you just said is true because you got to get things done. You got to do it. We do it the right way. We do it the efficient way. It's all about being efficient, right? That's the super tip of the Yalv session with Chaim. It's being efficient and getting everything we need and fitting it in the puzzle. And let's fit that puzzle together, right? Like that's the whole idea. So Yalv, Chaim, thank you so much again for having me on. I hope the eyeballs are up to 20 by now, and everybody's watching,
Al, it was a huge honor. Thank you so much again. Obviously, I'll see you soon, very soon. Hopefully we can do some more business. And thank you again. And I'm sure, everybody got a huge value from it. And we'll see you soon, Al. Thank you so much. And good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Chaim.
Take care. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Al.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.